Hi guys, and welcome back to another video game with powers. I'm Jake, and in today's video we are going to be continuing our top 100 favorite games in our collection series. Today we're going to be taking a look at my 90th through 81st favorite game in our collection. Now what I'm going to do is, for the ease of me being able to edit these videos, because we're going to be making an announcement here, so I need to have a lot of these videos pre-prepped already and pre-edited ahead of time. Since we do actually have all of these games in our collection, I thought instead of just putting pictures up of the board game, we will actually jump to the table and I will show off the box and the front cover and the back cover of the game while talking about why I enjoy the game itself. So hopefully you guys like that a little bit better. I know I'm a very visual person, so I like to see a lot of things and handle a lot of things, so it'll help me feel a lot better about the quality of some of these videos. But alright, let's go ahead and jump into our video today, starting off with game number 90. Alright, here we are with my 90th favorite game in our collection here, Stardust Coffee. And let me zoom this in. Now, Stardust Coffee is a very interesting game. I did pick this up on Kickstarter. This game, as far as my knowledge, is not in retail. This is a 2 to 4 player game, ages 8 plus and 60 to 90 minutes. In Stardust Coffee, essentially what you're doing is you are taking on the role of like a space expedition, almost, right? You are going to be the pilot of a spaceship, and you are going around the board here to all of these different planets and collecting these resources. And then you are using these resources to craft coffee, which you will then sell to the customers around the galaxy. And so it's got this cool feel. If you guys have ever played Chai, the board game, it has, it's kind of like a, that has that Chai feel of, you know, you're collecting these different coffee cards instead of tea cards, and you're using these resources to make this coffee. You also are going to have a spaceship, so you can kind of upgrade your spaceship as the game goes along. They have these pirates that will, these space pirates that will be going around here and trying to stop you. And so at the core of the game, the mechanics is going to be like a dice rolling resource management, right? So you'll roll some dice. Depending on the rolls, you'll be able to take these certain actions and do these certain things. And then you're going to be going around collecting these resources to go ahead and craft these pieces of coffee. But very interesting, very unique game. This would be a lot higher on my list, but the game does take a really long time. I feel like for such a small box game, it just takes a very long time to play it, and it is very confusing to play. But other than that, I really do enjoy the overall presentation and the theme here of Stardust Coffee. But this is my 90th favorite game in the collection here, Stardust Coffee. All right, taking a look at number 89, we have Pagan, Fate of Roanoke, okay? Pagan Fate of Roanoke is a kind of a dueling two-player game where one person is going to be taking on the role of a witch hunter and the other person is going to be taking on the role of the witch. And there's going to be kind of like a row of villagers, of 9 villagers, I believe, in the middle of the table. And kind of what the objective is if you are the witch, you are disguised as one of these villagers here, and you are trying to play cards from your hand and like play items and different things like that, potions and spells, in order to put some of these tokens here out and on the villagers themselves. And you'll also be visiting some of these villagers to try and influence them. And once your goal is to put a certain amount of tokens on the villager who you are disguised at to kind of complete the ritual. Once you've done that, you have won the game. As the witch hunter, just like the witch, you are going to be playing cards from your hand, like locations and allies and different things like that, and you are trying to guess who the which is. And so there's going to be this hidden deduction type mechanic here. And so you are going to be putting these tokens out and kind of investigating these villagers. And once you have a certain number of tokens, you can kind of get these clues. And there'll be a deck where you can draw from of all the villagers in here And over the course of the game, you can draw from this deck and you will slowly get to whittle down of who the witch is not, okay? And so then quickly you can make this decision unless you figure out who the witch is from the witch's play, because she kind of has to be secretive about it. So it's this nice, interesting tug of war, all right? The game here is 12 plus. It is a strictly 2-player game and is about 60 plus minutes. Again, for us, we really haven't dove into this game a whole lot. Maybe 2 playthroughs. Both our playthroughs have been about 1.5 to 2 hours. Very long game because of the thinkiness of it. You are really going to be strategizing and being very intentional with your turns, which is going to take a lot of time. But the game really doesn't have a lot of table presence, like a big table presence. It's very compact and neat, so that's what's really good about it. So I'm interested to dive a little bit more into this game with Sierra to see if this ends up going higher on our list. But this is Pagan Fate of Roanoke, my 89th favorite game in our collection. All right, moving on to number 88, we have Dix It Disney Edition, okay? Now, I'm sure you guys might be able to kind of figure this is more of a Sierra purchase than a Jake purchase, but I have come to really enjoy this Dix It system here. And Dix It is a 3 to 6 player game, 8 plus, and around 30 minutes per player. I love that, sometimes we struggle to have games that are like party games, right? And so this can serve that role very well. We've kind of house ruled it a little bit to play with up to 8 players by just putting some people in teams, and I think that's what kind of makes the game really well. But if you guys are not familiar with the Dix It system, essentially is everybody's going to have a hand of cards with just some artwork, and one person is going to be this storyteller here, and he's going to give a clue, right? A one-word clue, and that clue is going to be in reference to their card. And then the other players are going to play cards from their hand that they think best matches that clue. And what you are trying to do is the storyteller is trying to kind of get everybody to I think like not guess their card or guess their card. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but there's a scoring system where they are trying to get either everybody to guess or not everybody, because if they don't get everybody to guess, I don't think they lose points, but they don't get as much, and the other players will get points if you guess the storyteller's card correctly. But that's essentially the core of the game, is you guys going around the table, taking turns as the storyteller, playing a card, giving a clue, and then everybody else is trying to match that clue. And you have these little dials here that you're going to guess which card you think it is. So I've really come to enjoy this game and enjoy the system, and with a Disney edition here, of course the artwork is very relatable and very gorgeous as well. So this is my 88th favorite game in the collection, Dix It Disney Edition. All right, guys, moving on to number 87, we have Astra, okay? Astra is what I would call I think it's a flip and write type game, where everything is obviously dry erase. You're going to be using these dry erase markers, and essentially what you're doing is there's going to be a deck of these constellation cards. You are flipping these constellation cards over, and then you have a resource called Stardust, where you are spending this Stardust here, and I'll move the camera down a little bit closer. And so you are spending this Stardust to circle in the stars on these different constellations. And once a constellation is completely filled up, whoever the player was that did that will be able to collect that constellation and score victory points. Now, of course, they're going to have a mechanic in the game for, let's say I filled like 4 or 5 of these in, but I didn't complete the constellation, I will still get to get a bonus as well. But it's just a interesting, unique game. I haven't quite played a roll and write or a flip and write game like this. Rolling Realms kind of comes to my mind a little bit, where you're kind of like drawing and circling in using a dry erase marker with the cards and things like that. The dry erase board, you got your player board, scoring objective here. Everything is dry erase, and you are going to be making a bunch of markings on everything. But what I love about it is the presentation is still crisp and clean, even though you're circling all these little stars and marking on your board and different things like that. So a very interesting, a very unique game about collecting constellations. This is my 87th favorite game in our collection, Astra. Alrighty, moving on to game number 86. We have Undici. All right, Undici is a soccer simulator board game, and I'll move this up so you guys can see it here. This is a soccer simulator board game, or I have dubbed FIFA. The board game, where one person, you're going to have 1v1, obviously. One person is going to have their team, the other person is going to have their team, and you guys are essentially playing soccer. Now, the presentation here, and I think the mechanics of the game represent soccer beautifully. The clay chips that you're using, I love the aspect of the game of, in all of these different teams, right, you get to set your own formation. And so you're going to have these little clay chips, and each team's going to have about 18 players on the team. You are going to get to select your starting 11, throw them out there, and it's very cool. The passing, the shooting, you really have that feel of like FIFA Ultimate Team of trying to play the game. And now they do have an expansion with the national teams, and so that is just amazing as well. If you enjoy soccer and FIFA, then you would love Undici. We just rarely ever get this to the table because it does take so long, and we haven't really experimented with any of the house rules. But this is my 86th favorite game in our collection, Undici. All right, moving on to number 85, we have Cupcake Empire, okay? Cupcake Empire is a dice rolling game, 10 plus, around 60 minutes, 2 to 4 players, a classic dice chucker game where you are basically a cupcake connoisseur, I want to say, and you have your own bakery. And what you are trying to do is you have different workers that are associated with different colors of dice. You're going to be rolling this dice and then slotting them in these different rows on your player board. And then you are trying to create cupcakes that are going to serve these different customers. And so each customer, the color of the customer is going to tell you what that customer likes. So, for example, this guy likes green icing, and then he likes that beige base, which is just a normal base, right? And so you have normal bases, you have chocolate bases, you have chocolate frosting, green frosting, strawberry frosting, lemon frosting. And so it's this, it's a unique, fun bakery game. You know, I love dice chucker games, like some of these old school dice games. I kind of love that nostalgic feel, and this is one of those, like, you know, like a Dice Hospital, a Dice Manor type things where you're just rolling dice. They're going to be able to do certain things. You make cupcakes, sell these cupcakes to the customer, and the player with the most victory points is the winner. And I do love the little printed wooden customers here. All their facial expressions are very funny. But this is my 85th favorite game in our collection here, Cupcake Empire. All right, let's take a look at number 84. We have Boogeyman, the board game. So Boogeyman, the board game is a survival horror game, or almost like a hidden movement type board game where you are taking the role of one of these children, kind of like, let's compare it to like Stranger Things, right? But their club is called the Pizza and Investigation Club. Now, this is in the Tales of Evil universe, so this is when these characters were basically children. And the overall premise of the game is you have this big game board with a lot of spaces, right? And you are trying to defeat the big bad boogeyman. But since it is past your bedtime and you are wandering around this house here, the babysitter is not happy with you, so she is trying to constantly go around and catch you as well. And so it's this balance of trying to go to these different rooms, search these rooms for the objective, right? Because there's going to be a certain objective and criteria that you're going to need to meet. Then you all need to meet back in a specific room to go to this book of endings to defeat the Boogeyman. However, you're trying to avoid the babysitter from getting caught as well. And so what's interesting is this game does have a lot of different modes: solo, co-op, semi-co-op, and competitive. We have played it only co-op and competitive. I do really enjoy the competitive version of the game the most, which is where one person plays the role as the boogeyman and the others play the role as the children, and the game itself will play the role as the babysitter. It makes it for a lot of unique action because the boogeyman character gets to decide what room to pop up in without you knowing, and he gets to decide some of y'all's punishment as well. But there's a lot of cool, unique 1970s, 1980s pop culture references in the game. And it's a unique hidden movement. This was our very first hidden movement game, so we kind of do have some fondness of this. Now, the game by itself is very challenging. Me and my wife have found with just 2 players, and that's kind of what's drawn the game off from us a little bit, is that as 2 players, when we try and play this game, I do feel like the babysitter gets to your location too quickly and can track you down, and so that's very fatiguing. But we have not managed to win playing this at 2 players at all, and I think that kind of prevents it from getting to the table a lot for us. Is we just feel like we get snowballed too early a lot of the time, and we can never recover. But this is my 84th favorite game in our collection here, Boogeyman, the board game. Alrighty, moving on to number 83, we have Racoon Tycoon. Racoon Tycoon is essentially an economic type game where you're going to be playing cards from your hand, you're going to be collecting resources, but then also it's going to kind of manipulate all these other resources on the board, and then you're going to be selling these resources at a certain price. Again, very economic type game where the price of these resources are constantly moving up and down based on demand. Then you're going to be taking this money that you have in bidding on these different railroad cards of all these different dogs and cats and you know, tycoons and things like that to try and collect victory points. And you can also have like these upgrade tiles or like building tiles that you can have to give you better, like, more cards in your hand or more coal when you decide to play these cards, be able to get more resources. But it's a very economic heavy, business heavy type game. That's what really draws me to it, is it fills that business economic niche for me, and I love the artwork here, that old school style animal type artwork that's just cute, right? But this is Racoon Tycoon here, my 83rd favorite game in our collection. All right, moving on to number 82, we have Command of Nature. Now, this is a brand new game coming to you guys from the Unstable line. Command of Nature is a deck building game here, and let me flip this over. So this is a head-to-head or team deck building game where one person is taking on the role of a sage, and you are going to have a deck of cards, and you are going to be filling out like a triangular row. So a row of 3, 2, and 1, and you are going to be going head-to-head against another player. And so you're going to be playing cards from your hand to deal damage to cards in your opponent's row, and then at the end of the turn, you're going to have the opportunity to buy cards from a market to kind of upgrade your deck, and the overall winner is the person that defeats the rival person's sage. And this, I think, is one of my favorite games in the Unstable line here, just because I feel like there's not a lot of take that with this game, because it is basically a head-to-head game. You know what you're getting into. And then It also has that deck building aspect, which I really enjoy. But I love to see that this game made it on my list. So this is my 82nd favorite game, Command of Nature. All right, guys, time for the last one on our list here. We have DC, the deck building game. This is the original game here. I kind of talked about it with the DC deck building game Forever Evil. However, I do enjoy the original base game, being able to play as one of these heroes. Now, DC deck building game is a classic deck building game where essentially, like I said, you are taking on the role of a hero. So Superman, Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and you are basically going to have a starting hand of cards. There's going to be a market, and this time you guys are taking on a deck of villains here, and so you are trying to exhaust that deck of villains to go ahead and end the game. Now, I do also have the Crisis Core expansion, or one of the first set of Crisis expansion in here with the cooperative mode. I do really enjoy the cooperative mode of this game as well as the base version. But this is my 81st favorite game in our collection, DC, the deck building game, the original version. Alrighty guys, so we have made it to the end of the list for today. As always, please go ahead and drop down in the comment box below. Do you guys own any of the games that you have seen here today, and do you enjoy these, and are they higher up on your list, and why? If you guys enjoyed this content, smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and as always guys, please subscribe to our channel so we can keep bringing you some more awesome content. Alright guys, y'all have a great one. Bye.